Hi everyone. So welcome back to your weekly astrological transits. This week we're going from April 1st to the 7th. So of course it's the lead up to the solar eclipse on the 8th. And I've done that video already, so I'll try to remember to put a link down below the description area of this video. But anyway, this week starts off with Mercury retrograde. Coming in, I think it's like 19 somewhere, 19 degrees of Aries. And the moon will be going from the signs, we're going to start the week off with the moon in Capricorn, of course, go through Aquarius, Pisces, and then into Aries, but not quite to that solar eclipse spot yet, which is a new moon. Solar eclipses are always new moons. So this is the week to set your intentions, okay? Get your intentions going. This is a very, very powerful portal for your power to come through in brand new ways with all this Aries energy. So, okay, let me swap out cameras here and bring you over so we can go through the charts one day at a time. Hold on. Okay, so as you can see, Mercury is right here at 27 degrees of Aries. It has yet to officially turn retrograde, but we've been in this, like what they call a pre-shadow phase all week. And yeah, it's interesting that this week, so this chart I'm starting out 5 a.m., April 1st, of course. Oh, and I hope you guys, because I do this on Thursday before, I hope you have a really wonderful Easter. Yeah. So anyway, what came out in the news that had me, thinking, oh, painful, but, it does confirm astrology is, we had that, well, we're still dealing with that big tanker, that big Dutch tanker that lost control, lost power, I guess. Lost power, couldn't connect with a tugboat to help him through, and took out the bridge in Maryland. So that is just so painful. But when I think of bridges, I think of the sign of Libra. It literally has the glyph of a bridge. And with Neptune in this, moving towards, notice how it's at 27 degrees 55 minutes. So 5 more minutes and Neptune will be at 28 degrees. And then there's only 1 more degree until it's at that anaretic degree. Neptune rules everything over the waters. Pisces can be sometimes, something that's very painful to go through. And I wonder how many of those men who were lost were, I read up enough to notice that they were all probably very documented and legally here, immigrants from Mexico, Honduras, and El Salvador, and Guatemala. So, that's painful. Now, because we do have Venus here conjunct Neptune and getting tighter and tighter, Venus can help when it comes to making values as to what needs to change, what needs to happen. Down here with Jupiter and Uranus Uranus being our change agent, Jupiter ruling law, all types of law. And then with the trine up here to Ceres, and here's a perfect example as to how trines and sextiles are not necessarily always harmonious and happy, like most astrologers would say. I see them merely as contact points of quick moving energy. Now, of course, sextiles bring through opportunities. Well, now with the moon early this morning in Capricorn, no matter what time you get up, it's going to be in Capricorn, if it's morning time. And then the sextile over to Mars at 7 degrees there, and this is an approaching sextile. So all morning I am wondering if some breakthroughs might come. as to, because they do have, the black box, of course, from the ship and from the tanker. So maybe some new laws will be created, because Jupiter and Uranus, to me, in Taurus, are all about safety. That's the way I see it, bringing through more safety. Venus rules Taurus, so we've got this extra oomph there of the need for safety, especially over the seas, over the oceans, over all waterways. And then with Mars, it's bringing in energy to get to the bottom of things and create some structure. We've got maritime, even Mars rules the military, so there could even be something there that the public is maybe demanding, with public by the moon. The moon rules the public. But for another thing on the news, and then I'll get into what this is for us personally. Another thing on the news that I noticed was Jupiter here ruling, laws, all types of laws, man-made laws, courts of law, all of that. The DOJ, which would be represented here by Saturn in Pisces, seeing the big picture and moving some energy, even though these aren't in a real tight orb, it's still conjunct Mars and Saturn together. We'll be having this transit for a little bit. So what I was seeing here is with Jupiter and Uranus, it's surprising, right? I didn't expect for the DOJ to announce a monopoly lawsuit against Apple. But when you think about it, Pluto in Aquarius would be a tech giant, right? A giant, even though it's a long ways away and it's a dwarf planet, but still has a lot of power for the size. Packs a lot of punch. And then notice how Pluto here has this square to Mercury. So this all makes sense to me. Mercury ruling the news. In Aries, something new. Mercury almost, it's going to go retrograde, but almost making it to that anaretic degree where things really heat up. But yeah, I'll talk about the retrogradation in a little bit. But anyway, with the square to Pluto, there's that tension field. So, Apple needs to be thinking about maybe not monopolizing the market when it comes to, plugs and all these other ridiculous things changing. Just it has to be an Apple product and blocking out app developers. So, and I'm sure there's some other things about it that I forgot. But anyway, DOJ here, Apple here, square that's coming out in the news. Mercury would also relate to the actual filing of the lawsuit, because Mercury rules all documents and transactions around trades. It rules votes, all of those things. Votes, documents. So, okay, I think that covers that. For us, what I want to say is no matter what time you get up early this morning, take advantage of an opportunity to go after, because we have Mars infusing the energy of Saturn, but to go after Mars. Let yourself be motivated by maybe something that came through in dream time, maybe some direct guidance to help you on your way. But as to how to have more control over some part of your life. Now, I don't know where Capricorn lies in your chart, but whatever house it occupies, that would be that area of life where you can infuse your intuition, bring through the things that you really want, because the moon is all about connecting, responding, especially intuitively. It connects with our needs. It connects with the things that we need to nurture, to make our lives more stable and safe and secure. And with the sesquisquare down here to Uranus, there's that possibility that it's a good idea to stubbornly hold on to something that could create more freedom and safety, most of all safety and stability in your life, with both the signs Taurus and Capricorn are both so connected to stability. The other Earth sign, the other Earth sister to these would have to be would have to do with Virgo. Virgo helps us find the facts, make things useful. It helps us to discern, and we won't have the moon hit over here in Virgo yet, but that'll be next week. So, or the following week, because it'll be after the 8th for sure. This week the moon will go make it through, I think, to Aries, if I remember correctly. So anyway, let's see what else for the weekly overview. Pluto squaring Mercury's the big one. Be careful with, it's kind of like last week around picking your battles, because we still have Mercury and Aries where, it's like the Mercury ruling the mind and communication, the way we think and analyze. We can quickly go somewhere in our mind. And we want to make sure that it's, when we're speaking, with each other, it's so easy, with texting and writing, to accidentally come off sounding in a different way than you intended, right? And, we can see that sarcastically, too, where we're joking with each other, and, we could put the word not after everything rather than, just to make sure that they know. But we don't tend to do that, and then sometimes with silly little things, not silly, but awesome little details like punctuation, it can change the meaning of a sentence completely. There's a lot of funny things online about that if you ever want to look it up. So anyway, be careful with speaking out in powerful ways, and make sure that you're thinking of how the other person might feel, because we don't have anything over here in Leo to balance it out. We don't have any heart energy over here to balance out the Plutonic, which can be like a do or die something that you have to say, something you think you have to say, but it can be hurtful, right? So we want to be careful. Also, what we want to be careful with is because Aquarius rules our ankles and lower legs, calves and ankles. Be careful when you're out walking. It's springtime, of course, or if you're one of my awesome friends in the land down under, you're day and a half ahead of me anyway, but or no, about 15 hours ahead. So anyway, but they would be in Tuesday here. And hopefully you have an Australian astrologer for you guys, because my timing will be off. I'm so sorry about that. Now, even though the timing will be off, the patterns and the quality of the message won't be. So there's that. But anywho, when it comes to this Mercury square, the square, so Mercury can be the way we think and the way we communicate and what's going on in our heads. And then Aries is the sign that rules the head. So we do want to be careful for headaches. We've got fire and air here, the elements of fire with Aries, air with Aquarius. And the nodes are in, fire and air signs. So we really do want to be careful about getting enough water in, and be careful about being hot-headed. Be careful about bumping our heads. And then Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, but it's like all of our small motor coordination, like fingers and all of that. Might be, if you want to learn typing, if you don't know how to touch type, this would be a great time to learn it if you wanted to take a lesson. I learned with, what was a program called Mavis Beacon years ago, I think that's what it was. But anything that you want to learn about, you can get these programs and you can download them, have them in your computer, and then you can. What helped me, what I loved doing was you can cut and paste from any website that you want, or any materials that you have in your computer, any documents, and imagine you're studying something, what you can do is cut and paste, put it in the typing program, and then you're typing and learning as you go too. So not only learning how to type, but learning about a new subject. So that kind of is a double good thing there. Okay, what else? I think for the weekly overview, I think I'll keep going. I'll go to the Mercury retrograde chart so that we can see, the configurations in the sky when this one began. So you can see the moon is closer to Ceres. We're thinking more and more about our maternal imprint and how to take care of elderly parents, how to take care of, or at least caring about our elderly parents, maybe being a little concerned, thinking of having food supplies stocked up in the pantries, things like that. Anything that relates to food and nurturing and equality, most of all. So we are starting to see a lot of, the crappy things that are going on with SCROTUS. That's still there, but when it comes to women's reproductive rights, but there's a lot of talk about it, and you can see with the nodes, right, with the moon heading towards. So Ceres has been our placeholder squaring the nodes, and this is why there's so much more on the news. Everything that they're trying to do, they're being called out constantly on it. So that's important to know that you're not in this alone. There are a lot of people working and fighting hard. And with the moon, now it could bring out some public information that relates to the movement of independence, especially in women and for all relationships. I don't think that there's any healthy man on the planet that would want his wife to die because what she needs to save her life might be an abortion. Because abortions just Google this. Do abortions save lives? Has abortions saved lives? You'll be surprised what you get. So there's that, right? Fairness, equality, and thinking of both sides with Libra over here in the past. And why in the heck did SCROTUS ever take away Roe v. Wade and put in the Dobbs decision, throwing it down to the states, then let the states battle it out, when it was already laid into law, federal law, how many years ago? 50-some years ago? Like, what is going on with these people? These are the controlling bastards that don't give a damn about anyone else. And that is the challenge when it comes to Capricorn and Aquarius, is where it can just be cut off from the heart. We have to be very careful with that, the negative side of that, that's those signs. Okay, so let's focus in here on Mercury retrograde. You can see it happens at 27 degrees, 13 minutes. Of Aries, so wherever this lands in your chart, whatever house, that will be the area of life that you'll be going back over. And also, all these other planets most likely will be in there. Definitely Aries would be there, and most likely Chiron. It depends on how big the house is. I use it when I do natal charts. I use an unequal house system, because I think it's more accurate. But this is a big one for all Aries. It's also big for all Pisces. I mean, the Piscean. I'll get back to the Aries in a second, but just thinking of Saturn in Pisces. Saturn in Pisces, if you have any personal planets in Pisces, Saturn has already managed to, it's been sitting in a house it'll sit there for about 2.5 years. But imagine you have your moon in Pisces. Well, Saturn will help you, emotionally mature with this transit. Imagine you have your sun at 13 degrees Pisces. You might become more solid within yourself, and you might try to limit. You might be you might be very disciplined with yourself. And then with Mars coming in, that's even more of an emphasis to think in bigger terms, to not be so narrowly focused, but you're thinking in the big picture all the time, and you have all that support of Venus and Neptune. Venus I see as personal love, Neptune as spiritual love. So there can be, imagine, imagine a Piscean person getting into a nice relationship with this transit. It could definitely happen. Or learning how to love the human and the divine and not see any separation. Now, the Mercury ruling the mind, now that's where we can get into trouble, because Mercury, well, in natal charts, I usually look at the moon as being a good filter, a good part of the ego. But Mercury can certainly be in there because it's the place that our brains will naturally go. It just the way it relates. Like myself, I have Mercury in Cancer, and Mercury conjunct Uranus in Cancer. So my mind will quickly go to, what's the truth about I want to be enlightened about this, but it's also I'm wanting people to be sensitive and secure and safe. It's always safety first with me. So if you have natal Mercury in Aries, you're probably going to immediately think of, how can I move forward? I'm trusting my instincts. How do I make sure my mind is aligned with my independence? It's all about independence. But if you have issues with abandonment, you might impulsively be a little bit needy and grab onto others, because of course Libra is our polar opposite of Aries. So we're always balancing out relationship. Or we might be a little too forceful with our communications. So now with this retrogradation process, it's going to take that back in. You're going to be thinking more about, how can I be autonomous, independent, be more daring, create win-win situations, assert myself in positive ways, not passive-aggressive. And with the combination of Aries and the stellium in Aries and stellium in Pisces, there's passive-aggressive communications galore with this. So you have to be careful there. Let's be honest with why we're saying what we're saying, and let's don't talk behind other people's backs. Let's don't, get into gossiping. That's part of the polarity with Aries and Libra too, is, and especially with Chiron, is still pretty darn close to the North Node. We're sometimes having to learn that, how to be a healthy friend. Healthy friends don't pull someone else into a negative conversation about a third party, because that brings in, so first of all, like if you're gossiping about someone, you're maligning them. And then if you pull in this third party, then that's considered collusion. You're trying to get another person to collude with you so that you'll feel better about yourself, where if you just let it go and didn't need a second person, if you have issues with a person, contact or be with them directly and take out that other person that you're trying to pull in. And if that other person doesn't have a strong, healthy boundary, then they might collude with you, and then it can get really messy on so many levels. But on the energetic levels, the person that maybe didn't even do anything wrong, I would think psychically can feel all that. That's why we have to be very, very, very careful about going into fears and then trying to get someone else to collude with us so that we feel better within our mind, right? Because Mercury is all about the mind, and the mind doesn't know shit half the time, right? The mind can just go. It's our thinking apparatus in a way to. It's mostly, to help us function in daily life. But if we don't control our own minds, you can bet there's all kinds of little negative specialists running around out there that just want to distract you. They want to keep you from your light. It's like territory for them. The more they can pull energy into a dark realm, then the more they think they win. So if you can keep your mind clean, and in Aries, the way to do that would be to be very present with yourself, but most of all, connect with your heart, right? I mean, Aries has it's cardinal movement-oriented energy. So just as quick as you can have a negative thought, just as quick you can turn that right around and connect with the other cardinal sign of Cancer, which is about sensitivity and feeling and nurturing, but the need to like let go of control. And then Libra, Aries to Libra is our other cardinal sign. So you've got these three other signs to help you balance out that dynamic. Libra energy is like putting yourself in another person's moccasins and asking, well, how would I feel if somebody was talking about me behind my back? And maybe not standing up for me, that kind of a thing. So there's that. And then with Capricorn, now that has to do with taking self-responsibility, right? And let's say you did already gossip about somebody and somebody did collude with you. You can always go to the person you were talking about and say you're sorry, that you misunderstood, or maybe you need to clarify something with them and let them know how you feel. You need to have the conversation with the original source rather than pull in another person. And this has been part of this dynamic we've been in for, on the personal level for the last, since July. It was July 17th that we began the nodal shift, but it started out at 29 degrees because the nodes go backwards. So, of course, we're halfway through it, as you can see, just a little more than halfway. We're literally in the, close your ears if you don't like four-letter words, we're in the middle of the fuck around and find out phase, okay? Every sign has decans, split into thirds. So the first decan, which Mars is in right now, is from 0 to 9 degrees, which is all about developing foundations, developing plans. So with Mars, let's just go there. With Mars, we're dealing with things that it activates, it moves energy, and we're dealing with things that we will kind of fight for. Mars rules the military even. Mars is very enthusiastic. It helps us to achieve our goals, gets us going, right? And it is geared towards independence, but it can be also conflicting attitudes, and we have to be careful with that. In Pisces, I'm hoping that heals. And then with Libra over here at this 15 degrees and Aries, North Node and South Node. So North Node is the direction we're going, right? All of us together, we're going towards more independence and trusting our instincts, more movement-oriented self-assertion, as long as it's, healthy and it's not overly aggressive, as long as you're not stepping over somebody else to get where you want to go, right? Don't be like Donald Trump in the. Remember when he did that way back when he was it the president or the prime minister of Moldova? I can't remember, something like that. But he pushed himself. They were at this big conference, and he pushed himself in front of some guy just to get the photo op. And the guy's like, "Oh, okay, dude." Stuff like that. That's a bad, like Aries thing, or Mars, because Mars rules Aries. So. Anyway, so moving forward with coming from a healthy sense of independence, but that creates win-win situations. We're right in the middle of that phase of learning lessons. The 10 to 19 degrees of any sign has us learning lessons. And then, of course, after that, we have the 20 to 29 degrees, which is about deepening and blooming and blossoming, and that's where Neptune is. And here's another side note. think about all of, and especially with Venus there now, even though Venus will move on pretty soon, but Neptune's been this placeholder over the last 13 years. It stays in one sign for 14 years. So think of all that. Just go on Amazon or any other bookstore, bookseller, and put in the search term any divination tool you can think of. Tarot cards, oracles, pendulums, and there's a huge amount of those things for sale. And that's because everybody has been getting on board with all types of spirituality, spiritual processes. And they've been opening to that mystical side that is there. It's also, with Piscean energy, it's also very compassionate. It is ruled by Neptune. Before we discovered Neptune, it used to be Jupiter, but I like to go with the modern rulerships because, we have telescopes. Why not use that information? So anyway, with Piscean energy, we're also dealing with a lot more compassion and sensitivity, and opening up to the imagination, letting your imagination sometimes be your guide, and get into, especially when it comes to meditation. This is a great transit, Venus and Neptune together. It's a great transit for meditation and envisioning, where you sit down to meditate and you just focus only on the way you want your life to be, and you put yourself there. You put yourself on that bridge and meet your spirit team. Meet them halfway. I always like to give them default, though, because they always have a better imagination than I do. So, okay. Also, with the connection to the South Node over to Saturn, and this will be here. This was here last week. It has to be a tight orb between 0 and 3 degrees, and you can see that Saturn still has another 2 degrees to go to be exactly in conjunct the South Node. Okay, South Node of the past is all about relationship, social issues when we're dealing with Libra. It's all about the stimulus for relationship, the stimulus for sharing. It's a very engaging, Libra is a very engaging type of energy. Libras are good in relationship. They're fun to hang out with. They usually are very good socializing. And they're usually very, very good at creating opportunities for both parties or even a group. So, being that Saturn is here, sitting here saying, okay, you want to build a spiritual foundation? Well, what do you want to do with that spiritual foundation? Is it a place where you go? Is it a sanctuary you've created in your home? Is it your backyard and your home? Is it a room? Do you go there every day and spend at least an hour and think about the past and how you would like to change it? See the bigger opportunity, bring in all the healing and the love and the compassion. And most of all, Pisces is all about including. So we include the past as a means to learn and grow, because again, remember, we're in the learning phase still. And so there are adjustments. Whenever you see this in conjunct, it's also called a quincunx, but that's harder for me to say. Whenever you see this little green line with the sideways K, it means, just think in terms of adjustment. You're needing to make an adjustment because you're either seeing things differently, maybe in a new way than you ever have before, but it's also about testing things out. And especially Saturn over here is our test. It's our taskmaster for testing reality. It just is. And that's why it's a planet that on Earth, it holds or the planet for Earth, I should say, not on Earth. It's the planet up there rotating with all the other planets around the sun that is holding space for our time-space continuum, literally. So we get to test out all different things. Like how well is this working? Is this healing? What we've been doing, whatever you've been doing. And does it include relationships, or are you working on healing relationships? Or are you maybe instead in relationships that you've given up on because they've been hurtful to you, they haven't been fair, they haven't been full of equality, and you no longer trust them? Like six SCOTUS members we know, right? We don't trust them, so we know what they're going to do, and so we've set healthy boundaries around that. We're no longer giving them the benefit of the doubt, which would be a very Jupiterian way to go. It would be to give a person the benefit of the doubt. Well, you can only do that so long, and after you keep getting hurt over and over, just no more. So, okay, with this Mercury retrograde, it's going to go back. Sorry, it's taking me so long to get to this portion here. As it retrogrades, it's going to go back to 15 degrees and 58 minutes, almost 16 degrees. So wherever you have between, let's just call it 15 degrees and 27 degrees of Aries, this Mercury retrograde was going to bring in for you not only whatever house it's in, right? That's an area of your life, okay? So let's say it's your first house of self. Then you're going to be thinking a lot about better ways to communicate. You're going to be talking to yourself a lot. Better ways to when it comes to Aries here, she's our feminine counterpoint and force for equality to Pluto and Mars as well. So, and she takes 558 years to get around the zodiac, so she's not, she's sitting there basically kicking ass and taking names. Or maybe you call it taking names and then kicking ass, I don't know. So there's a very fiery, especially because Mercury's already gone past her, but now it's going to go back and talk to her some more, because maybe we need some more lessons, because remember, we're in, like I said, the fuck around and find out phase when it comes to relationships and the direction you want to go in your life. If you're in a codependent relationship, you're moving in life, you can't move forward really. You've got a ball and chain around your ankle. So how do you work with that, or how do you deal with that in ways that are kind and ways that are just and fair? And that is, my heart goes out to you if you're going through that, because it's so hard. And especially when it involves either a child, or wouldn't never be a child, because a child is always your dependent, but it could be a young adult, or let's say you're a grandma and you're concerned about a granddaughter or son or grandchild. Let's say they're dabbling in drugs or something like that, and you're really concerned about them. Like how do you manage that in your life? The same thing with like elderly parents, if you're a caretaker. So be very careful, be very non-judgmental with yourself and them, but do your best to take care of yourself and love yourself through it. Just bring the element in love with all your decisions, but also set your boundaries. If you don't have boundaries, I think in terms of dependency and codependency, they call it tough love. And there are tons of books. There are so many books on dependency, codependency dynamics. I remember Melody Beattie, I think I think her last name is Batty. I think she was the pioneer, but there could be others. And I know there's tons of information like that on YouTube. So find someone there to help you work it out, or help be a mentor for you. Okay, so we can let go of the sun for a little bit with this one. This North Node, Chiron, Eris, and Mercury will all be together in this Mercury retrogradation process. But the sun will keep moving forward every day, 1 degree every day, and hit up each one of these dwarf planets with these two. Oh, well, yeah. Actually, Chiron's a centaur. That's another whole story. But what we can do with this energy, the best way to use it, I see, is to communicate with yourself as to your own independence, your own autonomy, to maybe be a little, for some of you who've been giving yourself away, maybe be a little more selfish, but it's coming from your higher self, where you give yourself that time to meditate, you give yourself all the breaks that you need in your caretaking, and be thinking, because, we're going back to this 15 degrees here, right? Be thinking about your future forward, your life moving forward. Think about your future. What do you want your future to be like, right? And because Aries is ruled by Mars, we are dealing with courageous energy. Aries, in the best sense, has to do with waking up to opportunities and asserting yourself to jump on board with those opportunities. And you can ask your spirit team, ask your guides and your guardian angels when you go to sleep at night to have bring some dreams to you to help you wake up to whatever it is. I mean, wake up on the spiritual levels so that they infuse you. And when you're literally waking up in the morning on the physical human level, you still have that spiritual quality with you. Because with this Piscean energy here, let's use that for all the good that it's giving. Now, ways there could be problems, and I doubt it'll be for you guys personally, but it could be someone in your life that you're having to deal with. It could be someone who's rebellious with a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction happening, and I'm trying to do another chart on that, or another whole reading on that. But suffice to say, with this Mercury retrograde, just figure out what house it's in your chart. You have your own charts, and then you can look it up online if you want. Because the Mercury retrogrades, they happen so often. I don't really have the time to go do. I'm kind of worn out with this. the eclipses, but to take you all around every single thing and all the houses, but. Just know that every house is an area of your life. First house is self. Second house is your money and your values. Third house is your community and communication, the way you think and analyze. Fourth house is home. Fifth house is, fourth house, home, family, roots. Fifth house has to do with your creative, all of your co-creation. Can roll your children. It's a house of children. House of fun. House of romance, games, things like that. Sixth house, work, service, small animals. Seventh house, relationship. Eighth house, resources, others' resources that you're joined in with. Psychic abilities. Fourth house is psychic abilities as well as 12th, that water houses. And so 4th, 8th, and 12th are psychic ability houses. 8th house has everything to do with if you're married, it would be your partner's, or any partnership, it would be their resources joined with yours. Has to do, like I said, psychic abilities, recycling, sex, death benefits, inheritance, things like that. 9th house, divination, law, spiritual law, man-made law, colleges, universities. The 9th house is so much, I don't know if I can even say it all, remember it all. We're talking big forest, big nature. It's ruled by Sag and ruled by Jupiter. So it has everything to do with your belief system, most of all. So if you have this stellium going on in the 9th house, things are changing and moving forward for you very quickly, and helping you to open up in new ways that I think can be really, really beautiful. It's also the house of travel and foreign, places and foreigners. 10th house is how we participate in society. It has to do with our career, our reputation. 11th house can be our goals, wishes, and dreams, but it's also groups and organizations. And 12th house, ooh, that one is packed. It's a very karmic house. It's a house of completion. It's a house of opening up to your spirit team. It's a house of needing to be alone, have a lot of alone time. So if this is coming through in your 12th house, there's going to be a lot of energy there for you to open up all of your spiritual, psychic abilities and all things spiritual. So, yeah, that's as much as I'm going to do with that one. That's a lot already. But imagine these planets hitting any of your personal planets, right? Mercury, Aries sitting on a personal planet, Chiron sitting there, the North Node on a personal planet. That's going to bring more energy onto that planet. So whatever that personal planet is, and I won't go through all of them, just know that this will be a really important time for you. But with Mercury retrograde, I don't tend to see it in fearful ways. I just see it as you can expect a lot of updates when it comes to your tech devices. Technology will be updating things here and there because they find the bugs and then oh, got to deal with this, and they work it out and we get an update. We can expect a lot of phishing, phishing. So if you get those emails, you can, like PayPal, I think it's called, phishing at something, whatever, just whatever it is, wherever you're getting it from. Like you'll get it, like you might get a PayPal, you might get an email from, it looks like it's from PayPal, but then notice that it's already sent to not only your address, but 500 others, and it's an invoice for $600 and blah, blah, blah. And what they're trying to do is get you to respond to it so they know that it's a real email that they have of yours. Don't ever do that. Instead, of course, go online and find out the address to forward it to, from PayPal. And I think it's phishing something at PayPal, whatever. And then forward it that way, and they do their best to get rid of them. They say they do. Apple, I think, is called abuse at iCloud. I don't know what it would be for Google or Gmail or whatever. But wherever it's coming from, and wherever they're representing as if it's coming from, go to that website and find out what do you do? Do you do anything about phishing? And then see if there's a place that you can forward the email to. Because with Mercury and Aries, you can expect that there's going to be a lot of forward movement with communication, bottom line. And because as it goes backwards, it's going to connect with the North Node. And now Ceres is out of that. It's moving away from the exact square. So it's a separating, it's not an approaching square, it's a separating, which weakens the power a little bit. But it's still going to be there. And so that's still within orb. And what that brings in is that quality of needing to protect yourself. It's a protectiveness that nurtures stability, especially, that's doubly reinforced because it is in Capricorn. Let's see, now I've covered everything else that I've been speaking to, as in the sextile coming off of Mars to Saturn. Eventually, Ceres will be in a sextile to Venus. That will actually be really nice. And I've spoken about this, the T-square up here, for the last 2 weeks very strongly. So I don't think I need to go into that again. Let's see. Chiron opposing, that's waning. That's too far out. I'm not going to talk about that. Ceres to Jupiter, that trine there, which is also moving to a trine to Uranus. So when we do have that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on April 20th, so this is the energy building up, right? I actually love this. Between now and April 20th, this is an especially good time to be thinking about all the things that you want to nurture in your life, to be thinking about any healing that might need to happen from your maternal imprint, the home environment. And you can get more information about that by looking at your natal chart to see where Ceres is located. I focus on it a lot with in my natal readings. I don't throw in. I used to do the asteroids, but I found them to just be redundant with the other planets that were already there. And asteroids so I focus only on dwarf planets and planets now. Ceres is a dwarf planet. Aries is a dwarf planet. Pluto's a dwarf planet. So until they discover another one, I'm not messing with it. Otherwise, it's just like way too much. And it's really just backup energy for for the planets that are already going on. Like before we discovered Pluto, it was all about Mars. Before we discovered Jupiter, it was all about, or before we discovered Neptune, it was all about Jupiter. So, but anyway, with Ceres and this trine to Jupiter and Uranus, there can be some healing that comes through really quickly. And especially, I expect new technologies and inventions, Uranus technologies, in ways that bring through healing and expand safety because of Taurus. Now, this should be, I'm thinking, it better be, that all of our technology sources are developing ways to protect us financially so that maybe we don't get those phishing emails anymore. And, and we can see this even with the whole TikTok thing, where, that's pretty creepy that they can get into everything in your phone if you have it on your phone. Oh, my goodness. So, okay, let's go ahead and go forward into Tuesday. Tuesday, Mercury, of course, has gone back a little bit more, still retrograde, but look at all of these squares to the moon, Ceres and the moon, hitting the sun, the north node. So everything that I've been speaking to, for Mercury retrograde, is really kicking in. Like by Tuesday, 6 a.m. Pacific, things are heightened, and I do believe that there is going to be information. Remember, of course, Mercury is all about information and data, or data, however you want to say it. And with the square up to the moon and Ceres, we're dealing with, and especially with Pluto also squaring Mercury, we're dealing, and it's going to be a tighter square as it goes back, right? Well, it's tightening up a little bit, but anyway, we're dealing with I would think issues with women, issues with home, issues with our homeland, issues with who's doing their job to protect us or not, right? How well are they doing with their job to protect us? That is really the conversation going on. I mean, look at this. I mean, we have a double set of trines going on. It's even tighter as Ceres moves into closer orb, because 16 degrees to 17 degrees, pretty darn close already. And of course, it's heading towards the trine to Uranus. So it's all about food, women, protection, justice, humanity, loyalty to humanity. And that conversation is heightened because of the square from Mercury to Pluto. And it's bringing in the wounding from the past that we need to, hold space for, because so many people have been in survival mode. So many people have been trying to say, you know what, I'm here and I have a right to exist. Right? I mean, yeah. And every day the sun is moving 1 degree closer. Just 2 more days, it'll be right on the moon. I mean, right on the north node of the moon. And this nodal axis, again, has to do with, it can be like me versus them. So the sun always brings through, it always shines a spotlight on what needs to be looked at. It always helps. It's like a flashlight, what is that in the dark? I need to see that. What is that? Right? Pluto's up here saying, okay, we're bringing up the dredges of people who don't care about humanity, and you get to see it all. We're talking Putin, Viktor Orban, Netanyahu. They just care about their money. Donald J. Trump. Yeah, here, I'll sell you this Bible. I'm in court for hush money payments to a porn star and another person I had an affair with. But yeah, here, I'll stand up and act like I'm the man for family values. Like what? Meanwhile, he can't even create a cohesive post on his untruth social. Oh, but he's got some billions coming to him in there, because now it's a publicly traded platform. We'll see how fast that tanks someday. And the narcissism. I mean, it's the ticker is DJT. So, okay. Light coming out about that. Light information coming out about that. Women are like, what? Right? And then with Chiron holding space for healing through the sign of Aries, anybody having their Chiron return, which happens between, you feel it when you're going into it, and you feel it as you're going through it. So I'm going to say all the way 50 years old to 53 years old, it's a very challenging, transformative time to get into your deepest wounding, process that pain through, come out the other side. And in Aries, it's all about you matter. You deserve to exist here. You're here. You're supposed to be here. But you need to be independent of what other people think, because it's opposing Libra, right? It's nobody else's business. I'm sorry. It's the other way around. It's not your business what anybody else thinks. That's a quote from Louise Hay. So, God bless her. Anyway, what else for this day? It's pretty much, the moon is in the second decan. Later on in the day, it'll move into the third decan. So we've been learning lessons as to who is trustworthy and who is not within the government. And, lawsuits are coming galore, they're coming out. John Eastman had one yesterday in California, the state of California. His bar license, and if you don't remember who John Eastman is, he's the dude that is he and that other little dweeb, what's his name? I can't remember his name, that came up with a fake electors scheme. So, yeah, had it all planned out. What we'll do when Trump loses? Well, we'll say he won, and in this state, da-da-da-da-da, and we'll have these fake electors go to the secretary of each state and all these swing states and say, we're here to give our vote. And they're like, dude, you're not coming in. The vote's already been had, and you're not an elector, right? That's kind of how it went down. Boy, it's taken a long time to bring them to justice, and it's still happening. So, and then, there was Peter Navarro that went to prison. Weisselberg is going back to prison because he lied he perjured himself, but we know he made a plea agreement and gave up some dirt. So there's that. Okay, for us personally, it's really about being with that 18 degrees of the moon in Capricorn. Remember, the best way to use the Capricorn energy is to be willing to construct a plan for your life that brings in financial integrity, that brings in ways to, just being very self-responsible, knowing that to the best of your abilities, whatever you believe in is what helps you create your future. So if you believe in yourself, well, that would be taking up some of the Sagittarian energy and Jupiter, but following on into the sign of Capricorn, it's like, okay, I believe in this, so now I'm going to do this. I've tried out that and it didn't work, and I don't think it really works anymore, and especially with all this Piscean energy over here, this may be, a time for some people who got kind of sucked into some difficult politics or challenging politics, and now they're realizing that they've been all these years voting against their own self-interests, especially if you're a woman. If you're a Republican woman voting for Trump, you got to question you really got to question your thinking and belief system. When the moon's in Capricorn, that can be an awareness that, like, oh, if I keep doing that, I'm going to get, that. Like, right? I mean, it all started with, our first warning, well, besides, just observing him over the years, was the Access Hollywood, grab him by the bits, personal bits. He told everybody who he was right then. But, go ahead and ignore that. Call that locker room talk. How does that get you? Where does that get you, I should say? Where does that get you within your own personal integrity? Right? So, okay. Because if you're a star, they let you do it. Remember that. Okay, but again, on the personal level, with the moon in Capricorn, at that 18 degrees, we are learning lessons as to, like I said, if I do this, I get this, right? And if you want to make changes, because over here is the healing change, Uranus being our change agent, and Jupiter getting about ready to blow up, something. Are you going to be blowing up your possibilities for the future, where you are not only thinking about the future, but you're sincerely going after what is fair and what brings in more freedom? Are you detaching from people who are lying, people who are trying to suck you into their cultish behavior? Are you detaching from drugs, alcohol, any other substance abuse, too much food, too much blissed out, there's all that. Because the fast-moving energy is there to bring it through if you want to open up to all the, the healthy parts of life. But it's also there to get a challenging lesson that can be very shocking if you're going in the wrong direction, and if you have been going in the wrong direction. And Uranus takes 84 years to get around the zodiac, so anybody having a Uranus return would be about 84 years old, and it's usually looked at as a very enlightening transit. Same thing could happen with Uranus over any personal planet. It can really help you to wake up. Let's see. I think that's good. Let's go to Wednesday. Wednesday, the moon is, and I set it for 5 a.m. so you could see when it's exactly conjunct Pluto. So it's all about, for today, early in the morning, no matter what time you wake up, it's going to be about or if you stay up late even, you're going to be thinking outside the box in ways that can empower you, ways that can bring you into your intuition on a more, a deeper, more powerful level. It has to do with the moon always has to do with our emotional responses, the feelings that we get, and then the way we respond to the feelings. It also has to do with the public mood. It also has to do with our moms, grandmas, any, feminine counterpart, or, feminine person in your family. Or it doesn't have to be a woman. It can just be the, most feminine guy or whatever. That doesn't matter. And bumping up against Pluto, it can be a really powerful day for talking about things like that because, of course, Pluto, now the moon is joined with Pluto, it squares Mercury. So we are talking. And Mercury's almost back to 26 degrees, but it's still at 27. Mercury moves pretty quickly, whether it's going forward or back. And it never travels too far from the sun either. And you can see that the sun is 1 degree closer to the north node. And the nodes go backwards, so the north node is moving towards meeting the sun. So there really is that spotlight on, again, a Ceres up there, holding space for that, for bringing through justice in your life, for taking care of the women in your life and helping them get through certain times in their lives where, because with Ceres, we're talking about the reproductive system, all those cycles that a woman goes through. And it's not easy. It's much harder being, I think, I could be wrong. You guys let me know what you think. I think it's harder being a woman. We're more vulnerable and we go through all this, we go through way too much, right? I mean, my goodness, on a monthly basis. And then once it's over, then it's like another whole thing, which, so there's that. So we are, in terms of that, we are looking at the past and trying to decide which relationships are best for us to go forward with because of that square to the nodes. And the sun, especially today and tomorrow, are really shining a spotlight on those issues. Okay? All right. The moon's not making any other aspects, so I'm going to go ahead and go forward to Thursday, and we have Venus now in Aries, but it doesn't happen until 9 p.m. So I set the chart for 6 a.m. so you can see what we're headed towards. The moon's, I'll go with the moon first because that's what we're tracking. The moon is at 16 degrees of Aquarius, so we're at that middle phase where we're learning lessons. It is squaring, moving into an exact square with Jupiter and Uranus. So with picking up the powerful vibes from Pluto, self-empowerment, right? Or talking about these dark actors on, not actors, but players in government and powerful positions, basically, most of all. Because Pluto, it brings things up. It's like it bubbles up. And in a sign like Aquarius, it's into the group consciousness. Not unconscious, but conscious. Like, oh, I didn't see that before. Is this something new? No, it is not. It was always there. Remember, in USA, and it doesn't even matter what country, we've pretty much evolved from caveman, clump them over the head, drag them back to the cave, or what, other things. Although, maybe if we go to Atlantis and Lemuria, maybe it was much more peaceful. But the Pluto is the planet of the evolving soul. So with the soul evolving in Aquarius, it's all about going towards your individual uniqueness, going towards, reinventing yourself if need be, and at all those times that you do need to, because we do go through those times. And it's very intuitive. It's on the good side, it's connected to your intelligence. It can be very electric, where suddenly it just comes in. All those aha moments that you get, those are related to Aquarius and Uranus. So it's freedom loving, it's friendly. Like I said, it's thinking about the future. It's usually connected to altruistic, humanitarian goals. But on the dark side, and this again with the moon in Aquarius, we're midway. Today we're in the fuck around and find out phase of learning lessons as to how well am I managing my power. Am I having to push back against somebody that's trying to take away my power or suck off of me? Either way, energy vampires, things like that. And because with the moon squaring Jupiter and Uranus, you're going to be very tuned in. There's a tension field there that can turn into a great strength. Once you're, as long as you're tuned into yourself, then there can be an expansive intuition, an expansive I want to say expansive focus, but you focus in, it doesn't matter how you go, honestly. Whether you're focused in on something and then you're seeing the big picture, or you're thinking about the big picture and then you come in and go, oh, well, wait, how can I use this energy for healing? Because Jupiter can be healing, but it can also be just a little too much. I mean, it gets us going because we're bringing in, the expansion, but it just depends on how you use it. It can help you open up your belief system. It can help you explore your belief system and then figure out from there what to invest in, what to believe in, right? Basically, because whatever you believe is what you're creating, whether they're unconscious attitudes or conscious. We're still moving forward in life based on our beliefs. So if what we've been believing in has been too limited, and especially with the Saturn in Pisces has been too constricting and making you feel like a victim, then you're going to fight to get out. And Uranus can definitely, there could be some breakthrough that happens today where you're much more strong as every hour goes by. Yeah. Jupiter is also related to travel, so there might be considerations that way. There might be some more information that comes out to the public about Boeing jets and different airlines and things like that. Who's been the safest and who hasn't? So yeah. Now you can also see the sextile here. Over to the sun. The moon and the sun are sextile, so there's an opportunity there. Pluto and Venus are still sextile. That's been there. So again, and look how Venus is, because it'll move into Aries by 9 p.m., but look how close it is. It's at that anaretic degree, so things are very intensely focused in on what brings more power to women, to unity, to harmony, because Venus wants things to be nice and good, and it makes these comparison values as to, am I going in the right direction? Is all my work, will it bring any type of gratification? And with Pluto there's that power to get, think outside the box and get that going. So that is really wonderful. Now, of course, Venus picked up all the Neptunian energy as she was crossing over, so she's right there in that source energy. And by 9 p.m. tonight, it'll be all systems go when she moves into Aries. Let's see, we also have, hold on, let me look at the grid. What else is in this sextile to the moon? Right here. Yeah, I saw the sun. Oh, it is, yeah, that's right, because of going within orb. Yeah, okay, so let me go back to the wheel. So the sextiles are connecting with not only the sun, excuse me, because the North Node is, now they are conjunct So everyone's looking at moving forward and being on their path, blazing their own trail, and they're thinking in new ways, opening up. The emotional body's even opening up to be some, to open up to expand, to thinking into new ways. And every degree that the moon moves forward, it's going to hit up Chiron and, of course, Aries and Mercury. And again, there is that, the feminine equality, and how much do you matter to yourself, basically? How much do you know that you matter? How well are you doing at not abandoning yourself? How well are you doing when it comes to being independent? How much are you willing to fight for your independence, without hurting yourself or anyone else, right? Okay. Friday, you can see Venus is at that 0 degrees Aries, and so there's still the focus of Piscean energy here, because, well, we don't call the moon a planet. It's actually a luminary. The sun and the moons are luminaries. So I can't say there's a stellium in Pisces right here, but there definitely is right here, because that moon's going to keep going forward. And then, Mars is going to cross over Saturn. So right now Mars is picking up energy, picking up steam every day, moving towards all things Piscean, of course, which has to do with all that compassion and sensitivities. We're more and more sensitive nowadays with all this Piscean energy. The moon especially is in, so it's in a sesquisquare to the south node. This could be a little bit of emotional. So here's the way I'm seeing it. It's possible that yesterday there was a lot of independent thinking and drive. Not really drive, but independent feelings is a better way to put it. The drive would be here in Mars. And then Mars, with that drive for healing and including everything. But with now the moon in Pisces, now there can be some stubborn energy to hang on to the past, even though you made some headway yesterday, but now this morning you might feel a little like, oh, I'm not so sure. And if you're trying to break away from an abusive person or a using kind of vampire in your life, you might wake up feeling really sorry for them. And how are they going to feel that I'm gone and I'm not enabling them anymore? Well, try to just focus on your path and creating those solid foundations in your life the way you want your life to be, and see how that goes. Now, there's action that's going to need to be taken for you to feel right this morning, and the action has to do with, again, what nurtures you. Are you being loyal to yourself? It also, Ceres is also, she's our, feminine counterpart for animals. She's connected to animals. So it's possible that there might be some, like a vet appointment that needs to happen this morning. You might wake up and go, oh no, shoot, I got to get you to the vet. Could be something like that. And then there are other sesquisquares semi-squares over here. You can see those little red lines. Let me check the grid real quick so I don't miss any. Yeah. Got that one. Sun to the moon. Eris to Mars. Okay. Hold on. So Eris to Mars is definitely going to be that action in order to not be a victim anymore. Okay, so this is the day on all levels to assess your life and see the big picture. See the big picture. There's doubly, there's a lot of energy available to see the big picture and get yourself in a safer position if need be, safer, more stable position if that's what needs to be. If you've already been doing really well safety-wise and stability-wise, this can be expanding those operations because you know you're headed in the right direction. And see, that's the thing. you have to have that stable foundation to build upon. And until you have that safety, that stability, you can't build upon, right? You just can't. So all the building uponing, that doesn't make sense, but all the work to create that stable foundation, you'll be able to do even more. Expanding those operations will be coming for you. Now, if you haven't been safe, if you haven't been able to create a safe, stable foundation, you're going to be really needing to work on that, because the energy is coming in quickly to help you do it. And then, of course, remember Pluto with the sextile over here to the sun. We're shining a spotlight on that. That's excellent. Yeah, Venus is all about safety. In Aries, it's going to be all types of new ways that you can be even more safe. And, like I said, allow yourself to be a little more selfish. Remember, Venus is about bringing in unification. It's about having more harmony in your life. And it's okay to make those comparison values to help you figure out, because Venus rules Taurus, to help you figure out what's best for you. Like, if you don't think for yourself, okay, here's the way to go with a relationship. If you're in a relationship where they're not looking out for you, they're not thinking about your best interests, yourself, they're not including you, and it's always about them, that's not a healthy relationship. And those are the kind of relationships where you have to, think for yourself and move away from, because, you're dealing with something else going on there, right? Now, if you're dealing with a child, that's a totally different thing, but I'm talking about adults and partnerships. Now, if it's a boss where they're just always thinking about the business and making more money, well, you're getting paid by them, so that's your job, so that's a different thing. But personal relationships is what I'm talking about. Now, the moon today in Pisces starts out, I've got it set for 6 a.m., but as you can see up here, by 10 p.m. it's conjunct Mars. So the moon in Pisces is really moving towards, the moon's moving one way, Mars is moving as well. Mars is movement. So all systems go in the realms of Pisces. So again, Pisces is everything that has to do with just flowing into opportunities that have been spiritually set up by your team for so long, and now you can finally just kind of slide right into it, or whoosh right into it, or jump into it, or fall into it, whichever way you want to do it. And with the moon being in that first decan, it's all about developing something. So we're developing a spiritual foundation. Mars is moving closer every day towards Saturn. That spiritual foundation that you've been working on for so long has been, you've been working it, and it's been growing. You've been building it. And remember, Jupiter and Saturn are the builders of the zodiac, where Jupiter comes in and expands everything, and then Saturn comes in and lays down. It tests reality. It's like, well, let's see, what can we do now? Do as much as possible with Pisces. This is so good for meditation. This is a wonderful, wonderful day for meditation, for visioning, for impressing into your consciousness whatever your guides are trying to, guide you into. And you can see the sun has crossed over the north node, and it's moving closer to Chiron. So the sun infused with the power of Chiron is great for helping you to work through any old wounds and pain and trauma, like if you've been abandoned, if and maybe the abandonment wasn't on purpose. People die, right? We've lost people with the pandemic. We've lost people in these wars all over the planet. It's been sad. All this Piscean energy, it's been there to help us, be globally connected and send our prayers right? Send the love. That's the best we can do. Send the love and donate where you can. So anyway, the sun moving closer and closer to Chiron the rest of the week will be this opportunity to process through your pain and your trauma. And like I keep saying, with Chiron and Aries, if you can not abandon yourself, if you can belong to yourself, if you can not impulsively put yourself out to somebody else and say, you take care of me, I need you to see me, I need you to do this, I need, because the opposite of Aries is Libra. Don't put that on your partner. Come back to yourself and process your pain, or come to someone like me who's a therapist and I love holding space for other people to process through their pain, and I have no judgment around it at all. That's my thing. And then when it comes to after processing it through, then all the gifts are there waiting for you. So and this doesn't matter what sign your natal Chiron is in. It's always our deeper wounding, but then underneath it are the greater gifts. So the gifts with Aries, if you happen to do have Chiron in Aries and you are going through your Chiron return, like if you're between 50 and 53, you've been, and even earlier because Chiron's been there for quite some time, the deal with that is your gifts underneath are being very instinctual, where you don't even think, you just know which direction to go. You're like the people that someone could take for a drive and you don't look where you're going because you're doing something else maybe, and then all of a sudden the person that's driving says, oh dang, Google Maps isn't working anymore, and you might not have ever gone to where you are, but you go, oh, go this way, and you can find your way back. That's the gift of an Aries, with someone with a lot of Aries energy. Other gifts are blazing your own trail and asserting your unique individuality and becoming, most of all, with Aries, very, very independent. Okay? All right. So what else? Let's see. Like I said, Moon will be hooked up with Mars. I would say normally that Moon to Mars can be very energizing, so you want to be careful about staying up late because you might not ever get to sleep. But in the dreamy sign of Pisces, that just might not be true. Might not be true. Okay, let's go to Saturday. The Moon has now crossed over Mars, and it's hooked up with Saturn. And this happens at 3 a.m. So if you do have any dreams come through, it might be some direct guidance as to how well you're doing with your spiritual foundation, or whatever it is that you need to include into your consciousness in order to help you heal, and especially when it comes to relationships, because we've got the inconjuncts. And then from the power of the inconjunct to the south node of the past, we're dealing with relationships that we needed to make adjustments somehow. Or maybe guidance comes through. Because of that guidance, now we have a whole new relationship with ourselves, and in relationship to, literally, relationships, because, relationships are mirrors. So any painful relationship we've ever had has been something that we needed to look at within us that allowed it, basically, or to look at it in terms of, what, I still have myself. They didn't get me. Whatever they did to me, they didn't really get me. I'm still here, and there you go. But with the power of Pisces, there can, and it can bring in forgiveness. This is a very forgiving type of a transit. And forgiving doesn't mean that you let them do it. It just means you know what happened in the past, and now you're not holding resentment in your body, in your heart anymore. And that's especially probably true when it comes to the Moon and Mars, because some energy was moved through the emotional body with that little transit there. And now up against Saturn, the Moon to Saturn, we're like, oh, okay, well, I can accept this. I can master this with the moon and Saturn in that second degree or second decan of the sign. We are learning those lessons, whatever lessons that needed to be learned. It helps bring in a stronger spiritual foundation. Let's see, and the moon with the in conjunct to the south node, got that. That's it. Let's go to Sunday. Sunday, we have the moon conjunct Venus right here. And that happens at 9:22 a.m. But I set the chart for 4:25 p.m. I'm sorry, a.m. So that you could see it coming in. See how the moon's at 0 degrees Aries. I wanted to get the time that the moon first moves out of Pisces into Aries, and that's 4:25 in the morning. So you might wake up early and go, oh, okay, it's time to get up. And with Venus there, you might really want to just go ahead and get up early because there's, could be one of those days. And then again, it's Sunday morning, you might just want to sleep in. And that's just fine too. Because Venus is related to bliss, and there might be a new feeling of bliss when you wake up in the morning. Aspects to the moon are, and actually Venus is there too, because Venus has been there in that sextile to Pluto. So again, powerfully aligning to just be more free on all levels. And with the moon hooking up to that sextile, because sextiles bring through opportunities. Again, first thing in the morning, there is that possibility of being more powerfully connected to your emotional body. With Aquarius to the moon here, this is intuitive. You could wake up with some really amazing, like that first thing when you wake up, you might have some direct guidance that comes through. And it sets you in a new direction or it gets you to start something new. Look how much Aries energy we have here. My goodness. The moon, Venus, the north node, the sun, Chiron, Aries, and Mercury. And Mercury it's getting pretty close. It's almost exact to this direct contact to Aries. So there's that courage. There's a lot of courageous energy here. What a week. My goodness. But anyway, like I said, it won't be till 9:22 a.m. when the moon exactly conjuncts with Venus, but you get to enjoy all of that. And then the moon even separating away from Venus later on in the day will still be very lovely because it's going to move forward to the north node by tomorrow, the moon to the north node. It looks to me, you guys, I know I said it before, but it looks to me that all systems are go towards you processing, towards all of us, I include myself here, processing whatever needs to process through, taking it to our spiritual self, our spirit team, our guides, guardian angels, meditations, dream time, helping us to make sense of it all, see the big picture. So I'm summarizing here. See the big picture, big pictures, because there's a lot of areas of life, and then processing it through so that we've come through forgiveness, which doesn't mean that we forget, but it just means that we no longer hold, the negative feelings towards the situation or the people, and we see it as a part. We see all things as a part of a beautiful. Doesn't feel beautiful when you're going through it, but these problems that we had to come up against in order to come more fully back home to who we truly are in our power, and then to have that all that courage come through to keep moving on. Here's the major thing I wanted to say is that for this week it looks like it's a lot of forgiveness, healing, seeing the big picture, letting go, and then opening to even more, and then carry on. Just keep going. There's tons and tons of courage coming in to continue on. So, and if, the last thing I'll say is that if you go, like, you take one step forward and then two steps back, please know that that's normal for Aries energy. It's all about moving forward. You don't have to be perfect. As long as you don't hurt someone else or yourself, you're fine. But do be careful, right? Because like I said, Aries rules the head, and you want to be careful not to smack your head on something or get headaches. I mean, this is a lot of fiery energy coming in on Sunday, and that'll be taking us into into next week. So, okay, well, that's all I have. Hope you guys have a really wonderful week. Okay, bye.